Southeast Asia is a hub of scam operations.
ကျွန်တော်တရက်ကိုအဲ့တုန်းကလင်ရတာဆိုရင်ပေါ့ကျွန်တော်10ယောက်နဲ့15ယောက်ကြားတော့ရှိတယ်ဗျအဲ့လောက်တော့လင်ရတယောက်ကိုဒေါ်လာ300နဲ့500ကြားတော့ရတယ်ဗျ
Where thousands are trafficked and forced to defraud others.
他们就把我就是又坐船又带到了那个缅甸那边去。
You are forced to scam. Will you scam? Everybody says no. And that's when you get your first beating.
Just what makes the region a magnet for this multi-billion-dollar criminal industry?
The crime groups behind all of this are China linked.
They know the people who have power in Bangkok.
A civil war is ravaging Myanmar. Hundreds of rebel groups across the country are banding against the military junta after it seized power in a coup 4 years ago. On January 7th, a young seafarer from Shandong in eastern China found himself in the war-torn state. How 20-year-old Xiao Hao ended up here first began with the job advertising website.
当时把我个人的一些信息发布到那个招聘船员的网站上之后，就有一个叫一个船务公司的老张，他加我，然后说他正好有一条大船需要到泰国去上船，到泰国港口去上船。当时也没怀疑就信了。
Xiao Hao had just obtained his seafarer certificate and life was brimming with opportunities. He was promised 7,000 yuan a month, or about $970. So, he took the job and flew to the land of smiles. Though the ship was supposedly in Bangkok, the company bought him a ticket for Chiang Mai in northern Thailand, more than 700 kilometers away from the port. Chiang Mai is about an hour's drive from Myanmar. A car picked him up at the airport, and it wouldn't take long before Xiao Hao felt suspicious.
在那个过程中，我一直和我姐保持着联系，然后过一段时间，我就给我姐发一个定位，然后我自己也看，越看那个位置就离那个，他就越向那个泰国的边境跑去，往那边跑了。
Instead of Bangkok, he was driven to Tak, a border province and notorious transit point used by human traffickers to smuggle victims like him into Myanmar, where they're locked up, tortured, and forced to scam unsuspecting targets around the world. Such scams are devised to steal people's money through telecom systems like the internet and phones. They come in many forms, ranging from romance to investment cons. This transnational organized crime is worth tens of billions of dollars, and its main breeding ground is in Southeast Asia.
So when you have some instability in the region, and then you have some countries that are more economically advanced than others, it can be very difficult to get everybody on the same page and to following the same line of thinking. Crime syndicates have taken advantage of those mismatched relationships or mismatched partnerships, and that's why it thrives in this area.
What scam operations need is manpower. People to make the calls or send messages to potential victims. And that's where victims like Xiao Hao come in. Thousands like him have been kidnapped and trafficked to scam centres, then forced to work as scammers. At least 200,000 people are reportedly held in industrial-scaled, jail-like compounds in Myanmar and Cambodia. Both are major scam hubs in the region, but there are also scam operations in Laos, Malaysia and the Philippines. Thailand is a popular transit point. Unsuspected victims of human trafficking are often lured here before being smuggled to scam centres, controlled by Asian crime syndicates. Based on several reports, they're primarily Chinese, and one of their main targets is their fellow countrymen. As for Xiao Hao, he wised up to what was happening to him.
过了一会儿，我就和那个开车的人就打了起来嘛，打了起来。过了一会儿，他们就有人有那种武装就从那个缅甸河对岸坐船过来了。过来之后就被揍了一顿，被揍了一顿之后，当时他们也看他们带的枪之类的，当时我就直接停手了，然后他们就揍我，揍了一顿之后，他们就把我就是又坐船又带到了那个缅甸那边去。
The majority of victims are Chinese because the crime groups behind all of this are China-linked criminal groups. And so their logical labor force is still going to be a labor force back in China. The scam syndicates are bringing in $64 billion per year, and that's from victims globally in more than 110 countries.
Even as Xiao Hao inched towards his fate, just hours before, a Chinese actor was rescued from a scam centre. His name is Wang Xing. He was fooled into going for a casting call in Thailand, and his story went viral on social media. Wang Xing had disappeared from the Thai-Myanmar border for 3 days before Thai police brought him back. News of his high-profile kidnap shone a spotlight on the scam empire in Southeast Asia.
ก็มีพม่านะคะมีลาวมีไทยในอดีตที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยที่เราพูดถึงว่าในดินแดนเนี้ยเป็นดินแดน Golden Triangle อันนั้นเป็นเรื่องยาเสพติดแต่เนี้ยดูสิว่ากี่ปีผ่านไปแต่ในปัจจุบันถ้าเราพูดถึงเรื่อง scammer ไอ้สามเหลี่ยมอันเนี้ยมันขยายออกแต่โดยที่ใช้ประเทศไทยเป็นทางผ่านที่มีลาวกัมพูชาแล้วก็มีพม่าเนี่ยเราก็เนมสามเหลี่ยมเนี้ยว่า platinum ซึ่งมูลค่ามันเยอะมากซึ่งบางทีเนี่ยเราตีค่าแทบไม่ได้
Southeast Asia is a quite integrated region. People are accustomed to going from one country to another country in the region for income and for work. Another thing is that the Chinese crime groups have deep access and a web of contacts in all of the ASEAN countries. So that's made it quite easy to exploit Southeast Asia.
Why has Myanmar provided fertile ground for scam operations in the Mekong region, with hundreds of scam centres concentrated along its borders with China and Thailand? For one, Myanmar and China share a porous border that stretches over 2,000 kilometres. This makes it easy for criminal gangs to evade crackdowns by Chinese authorities. But that's not all.
เสถียรภาพความมั่นคงทางด้านการเมืองก็ยังไม่ค่อยมีความมั่นคงเท่าไหร่ปกครองโดยรัฐบาลเผด็จการทหารนะฮะแล้วก็มีการแบ่งชนกลุ่มน้อยออกเป็นกลุ่มต่างๆซึ่งรัฐบาลกลางก็ไม่สามารถควบคุมได้ฮะปล่อยให้ชนกลุ่มน้อยก็ปกครองกันเองทางนายทุนจีนก็จะอาศัยช่องว่างตัวนี้เข้ามาหาประโยชน์ในแต่ละพื้นที่ที่มีชนกลุ่มน้อยกำกับดูแลกันเองโดยเสนอผลประโยชน์ให้เข้ามาลงทุนสร้างฐานในการผลิตเป็นแหล่งสแกมเมอร์
Myanmar central authorities have never really been able to govern the periphery. It's always been under the control of these different ethnic groups seeking autonomy. But in the mid-2000s, the Myanmar military rolled out this border guard force scheme, which basically involved ethnic militia groups putting down their own arms and coming under the security umbrella of the Myanmar military in exchange for the right to be able to develop their economy any way they wanted to, as long as they did it in partnership with the military. They could do things like open up new casinos, open up scam centers.
Around the end of 2019, these operations faced pushback from the elected government of the National League for Democracy. But this changed after the military takeover.
The illicit activity just started to explode across the country. I mean, because once the civilian government had been displaced, that kind of put the Myanmar military in a position where it had carte blanche to do more or less whatever it wanted with these Chinese crime groups.
A lot of these syndicates are operating in rural areas of Myanmar Township, separated from the city of Mae Sot in Thailand by the narrow Moi River. The territory is controlled by the Karen Border Guard Force, which recently rebranded itself as the Karen National Army. On its land sprawls one of the biggest scam cities, KK Park. Michelle is part of a network that assists trafficked victims from Myanmar scam centres.
So it started out as one of the first scamming compounds that was built and invested into along this border back in the end of 2019. There's a fully functioning hospital, office buildings, dormitories, hotel, a casino, restaurants, KTV sites, brothels. You have everything that you would need there because on all of these sites you can enter and you can't leave.
Xiao Hao was trafficked to one called Tai Chung. It's down the river from KK Park, about an hour's drive away. The area is controlled by the Democratic Karen Benevolent Army, or DKBA, another militia that has a ceasefire with the Myanmar military.
In terms of the history of how these Chinese crime groups, at least in the modern era, became so powerful in Myanmar and in the region more broadly, it links very much to the fact that gambling is illegal in China. Chinese police cracked down on that, and that triggered a lot of these crime groups to look for spaces overseas. They went into Cambodia in a very big way, and then by 2017 they also moved into the Myanmar-Thailand border area. But what some of the syndicates started doing was, rather than using their marketing teams to offer online gambling products, they offered financial investments. And what the syndicates found was that this was much more, was infinitely more lucrative than online gambling was.
Meanwhile, Xiao Hao was now in Myanmar, where he would spend the next month trapped in the scam centre. What exactly happens to trafficking victims there?
Pinaka-worst na nangyari is yung palo. Pero yun yung lahat yung mostly nakakaranas sa mga kasamahan ko. Yun na yung parang motivation nila na pag wala kang withdraw or wala kang na-scam.
In January, Christina was trafficked from Manila to a scam compound known as Dong Mai Park near the Thai border. She's asked to remain anonymous. For 9 months, the business administration graduate was forced to trick people into fake crypto investments. Scam operations in Southeast Asia are quickly evolving.
There's, first of all, a very new trend where three countries that traditionally are source countries for victims are now destination countries. There's people being trafficked into Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia. That's totally new. All right, and then secondly, you have trafficking victims are now young, 18 to 35, and they're educated. Increasingly, you see where the syndicates are actually infiltrating professional networks. Just passively put advertisements out all over the place on social media. IT job, some of them are blockchain development jobs, or some of them are financial sector jobs, they're hotel jobs, because that's something that is an asset for the scammers. That's who they want to find.
ในอดีตเนี่ยเราจะมองว่าผู้เสียหายเนี่ยจะเป็นผู้ไม่มีความรู้เป็นผู้ที่หาโอกาสทางเศรษฐกิจมีฐานะอาจจะไม่ได้ดีมากแต่ปัจจุบันนี้ค่ะแตกต่างกันในเรื่องยิ่งถ้าจะถูกพาไปทำงานที่ call center ในที่ scammer ต่างๆเนี่ยนะคะอันนี้จะใช้คนที่มีภาษาได้ใช้คอมพิวเตอร์ได้รู้จัก IT.
Communication skills are crucial in the game of deception. Dana is 31 and a single mother. She studied information communication technology before a road accident forced her to drop out of university. Last year, she came across a one-year contract for a customer service position on Facebook, paying $1,000 a month with free meals and accommodation in Thailand.
Pinapaliwanag niya po sa akin na hahanap nga lang daw po ng client doon. Mabilis daw po yung process. At saka ano daw po, kasi kaya daw po mabilis yung process kasi nga po, tourist daw muna. Tapos pagpunta daw po doon, saka daw po kukuha ng working visa. Pag nakaisang buwan na daw po.
On New Year's Eve, Dana flew to Thailand for her new job, feeling excited. She travelled with another Filipino woman, first to Bangkok and then to Mae Sot. Neither of them knew they were being trafficked.
There's always a reason for everything, and there's someone constantly reassuring you that you're safe and that you're okay. And that person is normally 99% of the time your own nationality. It's only 5 minutes from anywhere in Mae Sot to the river. But you might drive for 2 hours, you might change vehicles 2 or 3 times to disorientate you. There is always that moment of fear of why do we have to keep swapping cars? What's the urgency? That's when communication stops.
"30 minutes to 1 hour po kami bumiyahe pagkagaling po. Hindi ko po sure kung gaano katagal na kasi sa Taranta ko po Parang ang nasa isip ko na lang po, ano ba tong pinasok ko? Asa na kaya ako? Ano kayang mangyayari sa akin? Ganon. Dumaan po kami sa parang probinsya na po talaga siya. Biglang huminto po kami dun sa may parang mga may mga puno-puno na po. May ilog po. Gusto ko po siyang kausapin. Gusto ko siyang tanungin. Sabi ko po sa kanya, ang nabanggit ko na lang po sa kanya sa sobrang shock ko po. Why?
And then you're taken to your company. And that's when you find out that this is not the job that you were employed for. You are forced to scam. Will you comply? Will you scam? Everybody says no. And that's when you get your first beating.
Michelle shows us footage of a man getting beaten in a Myanmar scam centre. He was ordered to lie face down for his punishment. The beating and other forms of torture usually take place in front of other workers, made an example for disobedience.
If you don't start working properly, this is going to be you next. It can range from being beaten with fists, metal or wooden pipes, being stomped on the head or on the spine. So he was lashed on his shoulders or down his arm, and they broke his forearm in 2 places.
他当时问我没答上来，然后没答上来就要扛着水桶做深蹲，做一次就是200个，然后当时我是连续做了3天，就是没做不完的，插多少下就打多少下。
Lagi nanginginig, kasi kitang-kita po ng dalawang mata mo yung mga tinotorture. Ang hirap lang isipin din. Saka 17 hours po kayo nagtatrabaho doon, ilang oras na lang yung tulog nyo. Kumbaga wala na pong buhay. Sabi ko nga nun, kahit mamatay na lang, wala. Okay na kasi. Kung ganun lagi.
This is Christina after she was beaten, but she considers herself as having gotten off lightly.
Meron silang tinatawag na black room. Yung room na yon hindi siya totally black, pero duguan din siya kasi nga puro torture din yung nangyayari. So, nakahang dun yung dalawa mong palad. Nakaposa siya. Naka-crucifix na position, tapos naka-tiptoe. Tapos gising ka doon for 2 days. Kapag nakatulog ka, bubuhusan ka ng malamig na tubig, tapos kukuryente ng electric shock.
Experts say the majority of scam companies are registered businesses in various countries like China, Singapore and the United Arab Emirates. They rent office space in big scam compounds, which operate like large business organizations. Each compound has different investors and houses various crime syndicates. Targets are referred to as clients.
Every company, depending on who the type of scam they're doing and the countries they're targeting, is structured in a slightly different way. But there's always senior management, middle management, and supervisors. So you might have different departments. So you might have an AI model department, then you might have a TikTok department, you might have what we would call a phishing department, where you're literally just getting numbers off Instagram or different social media platforms to then pass on to another department. Then you'll have some willing scammers in there, and then you have foreign victims of trafficking.
Initially, trafficked victims mostly came from China. That trend began to shift when COVID-19 stopped international travel and closed borders.
Be targeting people that could simply be tricked to go across borders. In 2024, we had documented 68 countries' nationals who were trafficked. It's now at 72 and growing, right? So every day we hear about more and more victims.
COVID-19 would help scam syndicates flourish in other ways. The economic downturn meant more people were desperate for work. This 40-year-old Thai had lost his job during the pandemic.
เราติดตามในเพจทั่วไปครับผมหางานเกาหลีหางานญี่ปุ่นหางานจีนหางานไต้หวันอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับผมสักประมาณอาทิตย์หนึ่งก็มีแอดมินทักมาหาผมว่าต้องการไปทำงานที่จีนหรือเปล่าอะไรอย่างเงี้ยผมเป็นงานตอบรายสินค้าของนำเข้าจากจีนครับผมตอนนั้นเราไม่รู้ว่ามันจะเป็นการที่โดนหลอกอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับผมเพราะว่าทุกคนอ่ะมันไม่รู้ว่าสแกมเมอร์อ่ะมันเป็นยังไงแต่ทุกคนอ่ะไม่เคยโดนหลอกใช้แล้วไม่รู้เท่าทันของว่าจะโดนหลอกยังไงครับผม
จริงๆวิธีการหลอกของเขาจริงๆมี3อย่างถ้าเป็นออนไลน์เนี่ยก็จะใช้ Facebook นะครับหลักก็น่าจะเป็นกลุ่มหางานใน Facebook ที่เป็น private อันเนี้ยเขาจะแฝงอยู่ในนั้นจะคอยหลอกอันที่2ก็คือนายหน้าเนี่ยครับกระบวนการนายหน้าที่เข้าไปชนคาบ้านคือเข้าไปเจอคนสนใจอยากทำงานมีงานให้ทำอย่างเงี้ยมันจะมีคนคอยรีคูดอีกแล้วอันที่3กระบวนการนั้นก็คือให้ผู้เสียหายนั่นแหละเป็นคนชักชวนต่อคุณหาคนมาแทนคุณ4 คนแล้วเดี๋ยวผมจะปล่อยคุณอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับเป็นลักษณะแบบนี้
Pattarapon was trafficked to Shan State in Myanmar near China. For 5 months, he was forced to become a criminal.
ถ้าเราทำไม่ได้ก็มีมาตรการที่ลงโทษเราด้วยใช้ไม้กระบองฟาดถ้าหนักสุดก็ใช้เครื่องช็อตไฟฟ้าถ้าเราไม่ทำครับมันไม่ได้อยู่พี่ทำให้แบบจิตใจมันแทบจะร้องไห้ทุกวันนี่มันร้องไห้กันทุกวันจริงๆที่พวกผมอยู่ด้วยกันครับ
คือคนที่เข้าไปอยู่ในกลายเป็นสแกมเมอร์เนี่ยเขาไม่ได้ตั้งใจที่เขานี่พูดในถึงส่วนที่ว่าเขาเป็นผู้เสียหายการค้ามนุษย์เขาไม่ได้ตั้งใจที่เขาจะไปเป็นอันนี้ก็ต้องกลับมาที่คำว่า forced criminality บังคับในเชิงให้เป็นในการกระทำผิดทางอาญาซึ่งพอที่เขาไปอยู่ในตรงนั้นแล้วถ้าเขาถูกบังคับเนี่ยเขาก็เอาชีวิตรอดถูกไหมฮะ
But not all scammers are coerced. Who are those who take part willingly?
Wow, လီဖမ်းပြီးတော့ကိုမာဝင်တယ်ပေါ့အဲ့ချိန်မှာကျမ်းမာရေးကိစ္စနဲ့လာတဲ့အခါမှာမိသားစုကလည်းအဆင်မပြေတဲ့အချိန်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်ဒီကျမ်းမာရေးကိစ္စတွေတော့ပတ်သက်ရှာဖို့စဉ်းစားရပေါ့မြို့ပေါ်တွေမှာလည်းအာဏာသိမ်းတဲ့ဖြစ်စဉ်တွေနဲ့အလောက်ကိုင်းနေခက်ခဲရှားပါနေတော့ကျွန်တော်အဲ့ဒီကြားပြန်လုပ်ဖို့တော့ကျွန်တော်ရွေးချယ်ခဲ့တယ်ပေါ့ကျွန်တော်အသက်25ပါဗျကျွန်တော် KK ဘတ်နဲ့ရှိလို့မှာကျွန်တော်ဒီကီလာအလုပ်ကိုကျွန်တော်တစ်နှစ်ကျော်ကြာလောက်ကိုင်းခဲ့ရတယ်ပေါ့ကျွန်တော်လူတွေနိုင်ငံပေါင်းစုံကျွန်တော်လိန်ခဲ့ပူးပါတယ်ဗျ
Unlike those who were forced to work as scammers, So Win chose this life willingly. He was what is called a professional scammer, and killer refers to a top-level one in the company he worked for. His specialty? Tricking victims with crypto investment scams. Scammers work systematically as a team. They're divided into 3 levels based on their skills. Level 1's role is to initiate contact with the target. If the target shows interest, they will be passed on to another scammer on the next level. This step is for grooming. Rapport is built over time, and once trust is won, the killer at the final level will steal money from the target. This ploy is known as the pig butchering scam.
It sounds terrible, but this is exactly what happens. You get a pig, you fatten the pig up, and then you slaughter the pig. It starts with you getting bombarded with affection, or we call the love bomb. So you don't have time to think clearly. You believe slowly that this person might be the love of your life. They'll ask you about your day, and they will tell you how happy they are about the fact that they have made substantial amounts of money investments. And because you already trust them to begin with, you start putting a bit of money, and now this little bit of money will give you a return. And this gives you evidence that, okay, I can trust the system. And as you put more and more money in, bam, this is when it all goes to hell. Because your investments are increasing, but you cannot seem to take the money out. And by the end of this all, you are the pig that's been slaughtered.
Around late 2016, early 2017, around that time, is when we heard of the first instances of the pig butchering scam. People thought that these were legitimate investments. They were willing to put, $20,000, $100,000 into these things. The way that it would work would be you would get the victim to put money into an initial cryptocurrency wallet, and then you'd basically try to launder that money through a vast net web of wallets on the blockchain. And so at some point, though, the money would then be consolidated into a consolidation wallet and then brought out into the formal financial sector.
The pig butchering scam usually starts on social media and dating apps. Scammers often follow a script like this, which details the character they have to play. In this script, the scammer pretends to be one Liza Victoria Garcia, a kind and gentle 33-year-old who makes more than $1 million a year from importing and exporting medical equipment. She inherited her American father's business and now owns real estate in Beverly Hills, California. Scripts help scammers perfect their lies and allow them to groom targets with continuity between chats and speakers. Sowin's character was Mary Jane, a 26-year-old Filipino-Italian.
ကျွန်တော်တရက်ကိုအဲ့တုန်းကလင်ရတာဆိုရင်ပေါ့ကျွန်တော်10ယောက်နဲ့15ယောက်ကြားတော့ရှိရကအဲ့လောက်တော့လင်ရတရက်ကိုဒေါ်လာ300နဲ့500ကြားတော့ရတယ်ကပါကစ္စတန်30အသက်30ကျော်ရဲ့အမျိုးသားပေါ့သူကိုလိန်တာကတော့ဒေါ်လာအလုံးပေါင်းသူပြီးတဲ့အထိကို1300လောက်ထိရတယ်ပေါ့သူကိုလိန်တာ2လလောက်ကြာတယ်
To appear more convincing, the scammer will send photos or videos of their persona. These could be created with AI. Others could be made through recruiting or kidnapping people to become scam models.
The scam syndicates need some assets in order to be able to present to the victim that attractive face, that attractive lifestyle. And so most of the scam syndicates will have individuals that they'll bring in and they'll organize photo shoots with them.
This tactic is often used in romance scams. The victim is tricked into a fake romantic relationship with the scammer, becoming vulnerable to manipulation.
ส่วนใหญ่จะเป็นผู้สูงอายุหน่อยฮะผู้หญิงวัยเกษียณแล้วฮะ50ขึ้น60ขึ้นอย่างเงี้ยฮะเป็นคนมีฐานะมีสามีมีครอบครัวละแต่เหมือนเขาอยู่บ้านว่างๆแล้วก็มีการศึกษาค่อนข้างสูงฮะบางคนโดนหลอกมา5 ปีหรือบางคนเกือบ10 ปีก็มีฮะเขายังขนาดมาแจ้งความเราแล้วเขาก็ยังไม่เชื่อว่าเขาโดนหลอกก็มีการโอนเงินให้ตลอดฮะโอนเงินไปทีละหลายล้านหมดไป10 กว่าล้านก็มีฮะ
But victims are not always wealthy. To the scam syndicates, anyone is fair game. Wippa sells food for a living in Bangkok and makes less than $10 a day. She is 61 now, the mother of 2 separated from her husband many years ago. Still, they live together, but don't really talk much. So in July last year, she found companionship in someone called Mark.
มาร์คอะเขาอยู่ประเทศฟิลิปปินส์แต่เขามาทำงานอยู่อังกฤษแล้วเรามาเจอใน Facebook อะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะคือแรกอะเขาบอกว่าเดี๋ยวเขาจะช่วยเราเขาเลยส่งเงินส่งของมาแต่ยังไม่ได้มีเงิน25,000 ดอลลาร์แล้วก็มีพวกนาฬิกามีพวกสร้อยแล้วก็มีดอกไม้ตกอยู่ที่ไปรษณีย์อะเก็บเงินเราอะไม่ใช่น้อยเลยป้าโอนไป 40,000 กว่าค่ะแล้วรวมของเพื่อนด้วยอีก 300,000 กว่า
Now, the total amount is more than 500,000 baht, or over $15,000 US. Mark keeps messaging her in Thai 3 times a day, telling her he's in Bangkok but detained by police.
เขาเขียนว่าอะไรรักคุณนะคุณต้องขายที่ดินของคุณถ้าคุณจำเป็นต้องขายสิ่งที่คุณมีจริงๆเพื่อคุณจะได้ช่วยฉันได้บินมาก็ยังไม่เจอเลยไม่เจอซากอย่างเลิกปันนี้ก็เศร้าไปเรารักเขาไหมก็รักอยู่ค่ะแต่คือเหมือนเราไม่มีใครรักเราไงก็เหงาอยู่อะคือไม่ได้ค่อยได้คุยกับใครไงตอนนี้เพื่อนเขาก็ไม่ช่วยเขาก็ไม่คุยด้วยไม่แต่แฟนเก่าเราก็ไปนั่นน่ะคุยหน่อยก็ด่าเราลูกเรายังไม่รักเราเลยแล้วเราจะไปรักใครได้เนี่ย
Whipper showed us Mark's photos and videos. A reverse image search showed they actually belonged to a Vietnamese actor.
รูปเขาทั้งหมดเลย
รูปนี้เหรอคะเขาก็ไปหามาจากอินเทอร์เน็ตได้ค่ะหนูก็หาได้อันนี้คือไปเอามาจากของใครก็ได้แล้วก็ส่งมาให้คุณป้าแล้วเขาก็จะบอกว่า
เขาถามเนี่ยคุณอะเป็นสแกมเมอร์ไหมเป็นมิจฉาชีพไหมทำไมต้องบอกผมว่าผมเป็นนักต้มตุ๋นผมไม่ได้เป็นนักต้มตุ๋นนะตอนนี้ลำบากมากแต่ข้าวก็ยังไม่มีกินเลยเพราะมัวแต่โอนให้เขาหมดจนไม่มีเหลือแล้วตังค์
In long-term scams, criminals do not relent even if a victim has depleted their savings.
စင်းရဲချမ်းသာတာလူတိုင်းအဲ့လိုတရုတ်တွေ process ကအဲ့လိုမျိုးပဲသူမရှိရှိရညှစ်ထုံးမှာကြောက်ခဲရညှစ်ပဲ
If you think about somebody who's losing money at a casino or anybody who's in a bad situation in life, what do? Do you think they quit? They don't walk away, right? You believe that one more time is going to work out for me, the tides are going to turn. And the more invested you are, the less you think clearly. Who tends to be the one that bites onto the hook? People who only. People who are going through something in their lives and they're feeling particularly vulnerable. That opens up this little portal that slowly widens as the scammers start to attach themselves into your lives.
As more people fall for scams, what is Southeast Asia doing to fight the fraudsters, especially when pressure is mounting from China?
作为泰国总理，我可以向各位保证，泰国政府将所有游客的安全置于首要位置。因此，我已要求有关当局加强合作，共同提升安全标准，并以最有效的。
In this video, the Thai Prime Minister used generative AI to turn her message of reassurance into Mandarin, hoping to ease the growing concern among Chinese travellers. It was released 2 weeks after Wang Xing's kidnap went viral on social media. The Chinese made up the biggest group of international visitors to Thailand in 2024, accounting for about 1/5 of the market. Last year, Chinese arrivals climbed from January to February. February is the Lunar New Year month, peak vacation season for the Chinese. Tourist numbers remained healthy into March and April. This year, January saw a 30% year-on-year increase, but after news of Wang Xing's kidnapping broke, numbers fell sharply.
We start to have a bad reputation. We really rely on the tourism industry. Now it start to get a problem.
Liu Zhongyi, China's Assistant Minister of Public Security, has visited the Thai-Myanmar border since January, meeting government officials on both sides. he's leading a trilateral operation comprising China, Myanmar, and Thailand.
Ostensibly to crack down on the scam operations, but I think more broadly this is about Chinese security influence in the region, but particularly in Thailand, which has generally been quite hesitant to accept, China to have police boots on the ground. And it all became about, well, you want China's help in addressing public safety concerns, well, you have to show us that it's safe for Chinese to come to Thailand. We need Chinese police on the ground. And that's effectively what ended up happening.
Liu asked Thailand to cut its energy and internet services that had fueled scam operations in Myanmar. Areas along its southeastern border, like Myawaddy, mainly rely on energy imports from Thailand. In February, Thailand stopped these supplies to 5 locations where scam syndicates are known to operate. The move was commended by Chinese President Xi Jinping when he met with the Thai Prime Minister in Beijing.
เขามาเนี่ยนะครับผมคิดว่าเป็นการทำงานร่วมกันมาแล้วเขาช่วยให้การแก้ไขปัญหา call center ของรัฐบาลไทยดีขึ้นไหมเขาอาจจะมีชุดความรู้มากกว่าเราเสียด้วยซ้ำ
Since February, more than 7,000 people from at least 30 countries and territories have been extracted from scam cities in Myanmar by ethnic armed groups. More than 4,000 of them are Chinese. There could still be 100,000 others trapped inside scam compounds operated by at least 36 major Chinese scam syndicates. In My Sot, signs warning visitors about human trafficking can be seen along the roads.
ในปัจจุบันเรายังพบคนชาติต่างๆพยายามเข้าพื้นที่อำเภอแม่สอดโดยที่ไม่มีแผนการท่องเที่ยวไม่มีแผนการจองโรงแรมมา7 คน 10 คนวันหนึ่งเดี๋ยวนี้เหลือเดินทางมานัก10 คนจากเดิมวันละ100เหลือวันละ10แต่เรายังพบกลุ่มพวกนี้อยู่ตอนนี้ผมกำลังมีมาตรการตามมาเกี่ยวเรื่องของพวกรถนำพาต่างๆนะครับพวกแอปต่างๆที่พาพวกนี้มานะ
Vehicles have to stop at various checkpoints for passenger identification. Photos are taken and travel details collected, a process our crew went through as we entered My Sot.
อันนี้คือป้องกันอะไรคะเหมือนแบบกลัวแบบเรื่องค้ามนุษย์เหรอคะอะไรนะคะกลัวลักลอบขนคนข้ามไปอ๋อโอเคขอบคุณค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
3 หลักๆนะครับ 1. จำกัดบุคคลที่เดินทางให้ชัดเจนสกรีนให้เห็น 2. ตัดสัญญาณและกำลัง 3. เป็นความร่วมมือระหว่างชาติอันเนี้ย3 เสาหลักสำคัญที่ต้องพูดคุยกันอย่างต่อเนื่องครับ
This problem has grown bigger and bigger since 2017, and largely Thailand has stayed aloof from it. This year, I think, with what happened with the Wangxing incident, you suddenly saw where China put massive pressure on Thailand. And then, of course, all this blows up in the media. They're now, kind of deploying the military, deploying more resources on the police side to try to disrupt this.
Trust me, it is a win. However, it has not stopped anything. It has not stopped any illicit activities. It has not stopped, even for one day, any of the scamming compounds shutting down their operations. It has not driven any companies out. It has not shut any compounds down. So you still have trafficking victims in there now, as we're talking, forced to scam.
After Thailand cut its supplies in February, the number of cybercrime cases has dropped, but only slightly, before rising back in March, April and May. The criminals seem to have adapted. Just across the river from My Sot, the sound of generators can be heard throughout the day in Yatai New City, a multi-billion-dollar Chinese development in Shui Koko. Touted to become a gambling destination, this Chinese city is also a breeding ground for scam operations. Every day, scammers connect to the web through Elon Musk's satellite internet service, Starlink. Every night, the city lights up against the darkness that shrouds illicit activities. And even though Myanmar suffered a devastating earthquake in March, most experts believe the scam operations have since resumed.
We need more steps. And for me, the next step that should be, that is, we need to find who is the key person of this organized crime. But they know the people who have power in Bangkok. And that is why they can connect to not just Myanmar, but they can connect to Cambodia, to Laos. So this is a big network, you know. And this big network is like no one do anything because it's $1 billion.
If you want to deal with this in a systematic way, you really will need a global response to this issue. I mean, Thailand could strategically put a lot more resources and effort right now into disrupting this on its own border, and it might be able to push it off of its border. But then there's the possibility that it would go inland, further into Myanmar, which is a trend we're already seeing. They're operating in Mandalay and Yangon.
Thailand's visa exemption scheme means it remains an easy source for syndicates hoping to lure victims. Launched last year, the scheme allows tourists from 93 countries and territories, including China, to stay up to 60 days in Thailand visa-free.
So Thailand has been thrust into this position where they are caught between a rock and a hard place. They can have as many initiatives, do as much prevention as possible in their own country, but the destination might be Myanmar.
ว่าช่วยกันจับตาดูไอ้ยาแรงเนี่ยมันจะเริ่มค่อยๆน้อยลงไหมหรือจริงๆมันควรจะเป็นความยั่งยืนให้มั่นใจว่าไอ้เชื้อโรคเนี่ยมันต้องหมดไปจริงๆถ้ามันไม่หมดเนี่ยนะมันดื้อยานะถ้าเทียบกันแล้วเดี๋ยวมันก็จะต้องกลับมาใหม่ในเรื่องความยั่งยืนกับสม่ำเสมอเนี่ยเป็นสิ่งที่เป็นข้อท้าทายของเราแหละคือลองดูสิคะว่าถ้าเรื่องที่ไม่ได้อยู่ในสปอตไลท์เรื่องที่ไม่ได้เป็นข่าวเดี๋ยวสักพักหนึ่งมันก็จะเบาลง
For victims who are still trapped in these scam centres, their hope for freedom relies on rescuers like Sotihatun. He's based in Myanmar and has been liaising with various NGOs and embassies to carry out rescue operations.
We got a lot of victims coming from victim to victims because they start to share the numbers, and embassies, maybe less than 10% we succeed. It's always difficult. Even you have a person named like say, like Andrew and building number C, and this company and everything, even exact, location. So these teams went inside, negotiate, talk. They already got the news last 3 days. So they already switched. And then when they come there and they say, oh, sorry, we don't have here.
For victims who made it out, the trauma from their experience still haunts them.
Nung nakalabas na kami, naginip ako nun napanaginipan ko yung supervisor. Ayun nga, pa rin, sumisigaw, pero hindi ko siya marinig kasi naka-earphones ako nun, so yun naririnig ko yung music. Tapos, ayun nga, doon ko na pagtanto na panaginip siya. Umiyak lang ako nun. Kasi nakikita ko pa din yung face niya.
Ang dami kong takot na parang lagi akong takot. Ganon, hindi ko po alam kung ba't ganon yung nararamdaman ko Parang, o baka nasanay lang ako na ganon lang yung naging buhay ko ng ilang buwan doon.
Xiao Hao was rescued within weeks after the Chinese actor made headlines. He's now back at home in Shandong with his family.
当时就是以为，可能后半辈子就一直待在那里边了吧。找工作的话，一定要找那种正规渠道，不要通过一些网上的网站不靠谱的网站这种，而且也不要去想着去赚快钱，因为赚快钱的话肯定是要担一定的风险的。